How's it going, guys? Dave here. I just got back from the Knoxville, Tennessee offline regional and placed in the top 64 with Katakuri. I chose to play Katakuri because I thought this deck was absolutely ridiculous going into control decks, and we are definitely entering a more control meta, or just like metas where games are lasting longer. And just the 10-drop existing makes those matchups like pretty highly favorable for Katakuri, because it can keep really good aggression in the early game, which is a 7k swing a turn, and then in the mid game you're just playing a bunch of dudes that also apply pressure, and then in the late game you're just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb, and it's really hard for a lot of decks to keep up with that. And that's why I chose this deck as opposed to like Rebecca or Dofi, because yeah, control matchups, this deck like just kind of thrives. So without further ado, we'll get to the deck. It's pretty basic, but I'll just talk about some of the choices. One drop pudding, searcher, no explanation there. I saw some lists that cut it to 3, and I think that's not very intelligent, to be honest. For Sanji still, I saw a lot of decks cutting this card, and again, I think that's kind of ludicrous because it gives you a turn 1 play going second, which is what you primarily want to do. Against the aggro decks, it gives you another body to contest their board, and against the control matchups, it gives you an extra swing, and like, he's damn near guaranteed to die if you turn him sideways, but like he also kind of eats an attack. So he not only pressures their life, but he also like eats an attack that would have probably gone in your life. So he is absolutely insane. Charlotte Armande, this is the card in the deck that kind of makes the law matchup winnable. The law matchup is still pretty hard, but her being an activate main, you can just like rest their weenie blockers or rest their 1-drop dudes and then kill them. So it puts them on like having to play a guy every turn, and it being 2k counter. Like it never sees the board unless you're playing it into law, really. Capone Game Beige, best trigger in the game, to be honest. There not much feels better than setting this at the bottom of your life and just like sitting there. The only time you probably don't put this at the bottom of your life is against the yellow mirror match, and even then, like you probably do. But it never came up. I would imagine you just do it anyway. Something that I did that was a little different that people gave me some flack for, I only played 3 Sparrow. The rationale is that 1, he doesn't have counter power, and counter power means a lot in this current format, because a lot of people are like swinging low in the early game, and like you just really want counter power. But anyway, he's still a really good card. He's insane trigger when you hit him. But since you're playing other stuff, like you're playing more Sanjis when you see the 4-drop Sanji blocker because you know it's in this deck, you're playing the Capones, and like it's just there are more things that you can't grab with this card, so like there is potential for you to miss, and it just feels really bad when they run into your Parasparrow and you're like, oh yeah, I need an extra card in my hand, and then you just like whiff. And yeah, all searchers feel bad if you whiff, but I mean, this deck you're not supposed to whiff, and I wanted to try and minimize that as much as possible, so I'm gonna play 3. 2 Brule, most people are on this right now. Not gonna hold you, she was like kind of boo-boo all day. Because she would come out of life, and then I would feel really good, and then like just something awful would happen to her. Like she would just die. She'd get bottom decked by 3,000 worlds, and like it's cool that she ate 3,000 worlds, but still, that's a blocker gone, or like she would just die, and almost immediately. But yeah, I mean, trigger blocker, she's still pretty good. Sanji blocker, he's probably the best new card in the deck. Actually, no, the best new card in the deck comes later, but he's still really, really good. Hitting him off of life is great because he acts as not only an attacker to threaten game swings, but he's also a blocker. So like if you want to draw out the game, you can just leave him up, but if you're trying to end the game fast, then you can swing with him. And 9 times out of 10, if he goes sideways, then they're also going to go sideways on him, which is kind of what you want them to do, so you can keep life advantage. But yeah, he's absolutely insane. I'm still playing 4 Cracker. Again, I think this card is absolutely ridiculous. Of the trigger cards you can hit, he applies like the most pressure, especially while yellow still plays Thunderbolt, which is probably going to for a long time. You can do really cute things like let them hit you down to equal life, and then Thunderbolt a blocker, so Cracker becomes live, and you can swing 7k double attack, which is like really powerful. Like they either have to counter out of it, or you just get so far ahead in life that like it's really hard for them to recover. Next, probably like my new one of my new favorite cards in the deck, 5 for 7 vanilla. A little fly in the frame, I don't like that. So this is just a tempo deck. You're wanting to play on curve, and you're wanting to threaten your opponents with like good math and good swings. This is a 5 for 7, and just like playing this makes math so much easier because you're getting 2 cards out of their hand almost guaranteed instead of 1, unless they're playing unless they have events. And he's 1K counter, so like he's usable even if he doesn't hit the board. Like he is just good. Other 5 drops, Shirahoshi. Again, why would you not play Graceful Charity? I cut it in favor of, I'm pretty sure I cut it in favor of more of the vanillas, but 3 is fine. If there was room, I would play 4 absolutely, but like yeah, it's Graceful Charity. Only 2 of the 6 for 8 Parasparrow. I just found that was strange. I just found that the 5 for 7 came up more. Like this card is really good into Whitebeard, which is already like a hard matchup, but Randolph is also good into Whitebeard because he's like a similar Dawn commitment to swing for 8, and like swing for 7 against Whitebeard is never bad because like the more cards you can get out of their hand before your final swing, the better, because you can just feel safer knowing that like, yeah, if I swing for like 18, then they're gonna have a harder time countering out of it because you know Whitebeard always has like 20 plus K worth of counter power in their hand at all times. But yeah, only 2 of that Charlotte Parasparrow. 2 of the 7 drop. This came in handy a lot, especially if I got to play it on curve. The thing with this deck list, the way it is that like the curve is good going first or going second. Like you always want to go second because you can like do a 7K swing and then play your odd dudes. But going first, you can also just swing for 5 with your leader and then play your odd dudes on curve, which also just applies a lot of pressure. And with this card, a lot of people were giving me life this weekend, which unironically enough, I think that's incredibly incorrect. Especially in control matchups, I think if you have the life to spare, you definitely just eat it. That's how I knew when I played this card whether or not I was going to be in for a hard late game or not, is if they decided to take the life or give me the life. If they decided to give me the life, I knew that my late game was going to be like pretty easy with all the bombs and like all the rest of the cards you're about to see. But if they decided to eat the life, then I knew I was going to be in for a pretty hard late game because they were just going to switch their game plan to beat my face. But yeah, this card is absolutely insane. It's probably first on the chopping block for the big boys, but it's still a really good card. Next, we have 2 of the 8 drop. This card is absolutely bonkers, but it's just so situational that I couldn't warrant playing it more at 2 or playing it at more than 2. So I only played 2. Sticking an 8K body is very, very strong, but when you're put into a situation where you have to give your opponent another life because that's the only way to get rid of a threat, it just feels really bad that you have to like hit them again unless you have like overwhelming advantage. So at that point it feels win more. But there are turns where you can like play this card and then keep yourself alive. Like against the Whitebeard player, I swung with a 6 with a Parasparrow, swung 7 with my leader, and then I played this guy to put the Parasparrow back into my life so I could have the Parasparrow to swing again on my turn and then keep myself alive so the Whitebeard player had to hit me one more time, which he only had enough attacks to get me down to 0 and not enough attacks to like kill me. And then I killed him on the crackback. So it was really good on that turn. Next, probably my new favorite card in the deck, the 9-drop Yamato. I was talking with some of my buddies before the event and they were like, this card feels so greedy in yellow. And yes, it can be a little greedy because you're only getting the first part of the effect most of the time. But on the turns where you're getting that part of the effect, you've probably put your opponent in such a position where that like they've only got 1 or 2 dudes left on their board, and 9 times out of 10 you can just like kill the dude that's giving you the most problems because it's probably going to be like a 3-4, maybe a 5 drop. And if you're playing in the control matchup, you usually have that much life split between you and your opponent. So she becomes really, really strong. In the aggro matchups, you're probably at like close to 0 life and your opponent's probably at 2 or 3, maybe 4 life, even if you're trying to starve them out of resources. So every single thing they play on the board is absolutely crucial and absolutely precious. So getting to pop those with Yamato for free and then getting to heal a life is absolutely insane. So where this card is not searchable and this card most of the time only gets half of its effect, I think this card is kind of necessary in yellow going forward, just as more top end and removal, which is like a thing that yellow is really, really missing. And of course, for the 10 drop, like until something happens to this card, me and my friends were talking, like we're like not 90% sure, but we're pretty sure that this card is going to get limited at some point. It's going to get the 9-beard treatment. This yellow hasn't like won any major events, but this card is incredibly oppressive to the game. Like I had acknowledged fully that this card is somewhat unfair in the amount of tempo that it gives you. Because not only does your opponent have to essentially discard a card, you have to hit them one last time. And not only do you gain a life and they have to hit you one more time, you get to draw a card. She's absolutely bonkers, and if you get to play her once, the game is like 50% over. If you get to play her twice, the game is like 80% over. And if you randomly, and I did it 3 times on Saturday, get to play 3 of them in a row, then the game is like 100% over. There is no recovering from 3 10-drop big moms. So yeah, there was a queen player that I played in round 2. He was a really nice guy. I ended the game, I think, at 6 life, and he ended, and yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And then we have 2 Thunderbolt to finish out the deck. I wanted to make room for the arrow card, but there was just not enough space, and I felt like I wanted to play more dudes instead of just random events. Not random events, but like instead of events. And Thunderbolt is always just going to be good. Hitting this out of life feels great. Drawing it kind of sucks, but there are like random wild times where you do end up being able to like go for game if this card is in your hand. So that's the deck. I want to talk about the matchups like just a little bit. And you're just going to see me play with my hands while we talk about these matchups. Round 1, I played in the mirror match. I actually lost round 1. So my finishing record was X2. I went 7-2 at the event. Round 1, and if you care about my placement, I got 52nd. Me and a bunch of other X2s got cucked out of top 32 because the pair down lost in the last round, which I mean is what it is. We didn't have to play an extra round. Everybody was tired, but still it would have been nice to have a chance to get to top 32. Anywho, round 1, I played the mirror match, and I lost that mirror match because of a rogue trigger. I'm going to paint the scenario. I had game on board. He had 5 life left. I knew 3 of his life cards. Oh my. Oh, that's my, sorry about that. That's my rice cooker. Yay, I have rice now. Sorry you guys had to hear that. But yeah, I knew 3 out of the 5 of his life cards. I swung, took his first unknown life, which was a Parasparrow, which like didn't matter. And then I swung double attack with a cracker into his 4 life. And like, keep in mind, I had like game mapped out. He had like 1 card in his hand. I had 6 attacks, including the double attack from cracker. And enough math on my board to end the game because I still had 9 Dawn up after I swung and hit him once to get the Parasparrow out of his life. He picked up his first life. I knew what it was. It was a 2K counter. And then he touches his second card, which was the unknown. And I was like, if this is any card that stops an attack, you probably win the game. Because he also had 2 10-drop moms on the board. And then he flips a blocker Sanji. And I was like, well, that's probably the game. So, and it did end up deciding the game because he was able to block and then swing out of my life. And it was just unfortunate because I knew what the last 2 cards in his life were. Round 2 was the queen player I was just talking about. That matchup is just grindy. Like, queen wants to get to the point of the game that I want to get to as well. So after we got to that point, it was just like bomb after bomb after bomb, and my bombs outweighed his bombs. So I was able to grind that out. Round 3 was a blue Dofi deck. I wasn't expecting to see blue Dofi, and I honestly didn't know how that matchup goes, but sorry, blue Dofi players, that deck is kind of free for Katakuri just because like getting to swing 7k into your board every single turn puts way too much pressure on. So anytime he would flip it for his leader ability, I would just kill it with my leader, and then I would pressure his life with my other dudes, and then it just got to be too much. Like, I think I ended that game with 4 life. Round 4 was, what was round 4? Oh, round 4 was a, goodness gracious. Round 4 was another queen deck. That one was more interesting. I still won. I ended the game with 2 life. He kept it a lot closer, but he also saw like a lot more of his bombs. I got red rocked 3 times in that game, but the way this deck works now, like if you can just keep up with the number of spot removal they have, then you can win that game and get to the late game. And blue players, don't waste your red rocks on 7 for 8s or Randolphs, because then you don't have a red rock for a 10-drop mom. Round 5, I played another mono blue Dofi. And round 5 is when I started to see players like starting to play correctly. And by play correctly, I mean like I knew I was in for a good game when I went first. I made my play. I passed. He made his play. Got back to me. I played a dude, swung at his life. He took it. And then I passed turn, and on his second turn going second, he didn't swing at me. That's when I knew I was in for a good game, because like you want to swing into yellow because you have to pressure life, but you don't want to like give them free triggers in the early stages of the game, because that's how they stabilize in the early parts of the game. So yeah, that was a good game. I still ended the game at 2 life though, so it was it was still pretty interesting. In round 6, this is my second loss. I played against Law. Quite literally, I put him on every single card in your hand has to be a 2K counter, which it was. I went for a game swing when he had 4 cards left in his hand. I swung once with leader. It was 2K counter out. I swung again with another dude. It was 2K counter out. And then I swung 9K at his face with a Yamato. And then he dropped the last 3 cards in his hand, which were 3 2K counters. And then he just had too many attacks on the crackback. So that was that game. Like, again, I put him on every card in your hand better be a 2K. And I was dying on the crackback regardless, so I just had to go for game. It was one of those scenarios. Round 7 was my first Whitebeard, round 7 was my first Whitebeard match of the day. That was a tough match. But I ended up grinding it out. After the game, he asked about my thought process, and I was just like, if you kill yourself early enough, then I can just like swing tall and get cards out of your hand for a final push. He was a really cool dude. He came up to me after, so I'll talk about him again later. The next round, I played green, purple, Dofi. And again, control matches with this deck are like, they're highly favored, right? And green Dofi is definitely a control deck. He also bricked. He played Nami on curve, and then he proceeded to swing thrice with Nami. He whiffed 2 out of 3 of those searches. So like, card games be card gaming. And he kind of whiffed against a matchup he can't afford to whiff against. Let's see. After that, I played, what did I play next? Oh, I played another Whitebeard after that, which again, it's a real butthole clencher. It's just hard to play that matchup. But once again, on his last turn, he did some like wonky math into my hand and to try and kill me. And I was just able to counter out. So I countered out of like the first swing, and he was like, dang, I guess that's the game, but I'm going to make you play that anyway. So yeah, he swung, his first swing was incorrect, and then his second swing was also incorrect. And then from there, I just got to swing out on his face. In the very last round, I played another mirror match. It was a very, very close mirror match. But I think the deciding factor was that I got to play 2 crackers and he didn't. I got to play 2 crackers and he was playing Hera, and I was fairly intelligent and decided to not play into Hera because the Hera was stacked in his life, so I put it on the bottom for the end of the game. And then after a couple turns, I remembered where it was in the life, so I knew to not swing at it so he couldn't kill me on the crackback, because I knew I had enough counter to live through the rest of his swings. So yeah, the tournament experience overall was really, really great. Everyone was really nice. I didn't run into any dicks. It was really, really fun. Definitely want to do more, and I really want to try and win the next one. But thank you guys for hanging in there. If you hung in there, thanks for watching me shuffle my leader and prize card back and forth for the past like 8 minutes. But I hope you enjoyed me talking about my matchups and how those went. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys in the next tournament, and thanks a lot. Peace.